Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name's Lauren. I am the Director of Sales and Marketing with Perfect Patients. I have Eric Hoffman with Chiro Jobs joining me here. Today, we're going to talk about 3 insider tips on how to hire the perfect chiropractic associate, something we hear a lot about. So Eric's going to walk us through that. Eric is coming to us with extensive experience in the chiropractic industry through a different avenue, but Chiro Jobs is a little newer. He's going to introduce that to us. He's worked with tens of thousands of chiropractors over the last 12 plus years. He knows what he's talking about. He loves this industry. He's here to support you guys. Happy to have you here, Eric. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for the wonderful introduction, Lauren. I'm glad to be here. Uh, as a starting point, I know I'm in good company because part of my history, my father and I and some other family members have run ChiroSecure for a long time. And my father, Dr. Stuart Hoffman, has known Bill Esteb for decades, longer than I've probably been alive. So
Sounds
I
about right.
know I know I'm in good company, and I love being here. So thank you for having me. To your point, I've been working with ChiroSecure for probably now 13 years. I need to, I guess, update my my bio. But yeah, through that, we insure roughly 24,000 chiropractors, give or take. And through that process, I've been focused primarily on risk management consulting for our doctors over that time period. And one of the things that's come up over and over again through my time at ChiroSecure is a question about employment. And you wouldn't expect that necessarily because primarily I'm getting calls about, hey, a patient thinks I injured them. What do I do? And I have to walk them off the ledge and give them some guidance to help avoid a lawsuit or a claim coming up. But outside of those general questions, I get calls all day long of, hey, I'm looking for an associate. I know this isn't what you guys do, but can you help? You guys insure a lot of people. Do you know who's looking? The answer has always been no, it's not what we do. You're correct. And just go to your state association, go to your alma mater, et cetera, like it's the 70s and figure it out because there's no real good solution that I've heard of. And about mid last year, I got that question, I think like 3 times in 1 week, and it pissed me off enough that I decided, why don't I just build something
There's
to
got to be
support
a
this
better
need?
solution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clearly there's a demand, and I just need to get this out there so that we can fix this problem. So
Good
the
for
first,
you.
thank
Yeah,
you.
we hear it too. I don't know if it's as often, but we
Yeah.
definitely hear it. Looking to hire, I'm challenged. It's one of
Yeah.
the biggest challenges they're running into. How do
Yeah.
I find a replacement? What do I pay them? All that.
Totally.
So
And we're going to get into all that today. But yeah, it's a clear disconnect and a clear inefficiency in the profession. And hopefully we can solve that in the next few years. But where it kind of came from, ironically, the first thing I did, usually when I come up with a business idea, the first thing I do is go on GoDaddy or Google Domains to figure out what's actually available.
there you
And
go.
the first thing I typed in was chirojobs.com because that's what I would type in if I was looking for an associate or a job, and it was available. So I clicked buy and we were off to the races.
All
So
right.
long story short, today, kind of what I was hoping to do is present some data to your community about some efficient ways of hiring an associate, what to look for, what to do, some of the, things to avoid, et cetera. And hopefully we can get them on the right track to grow their practice and the profession as a whole. So
Awesome.
if it's all right with you, I can share my presentation.
Let's dive into it. Yeah. So give us a little rundown of
Yeah,
Chiro Jobs. So you found that demand and
yep,
created Chiro Jobs.
exactly.
Um, So pay attention if you're looking for an associate.
Yep,
This is going to be hugely beneficial, a great resource here. But yeah, tell us what it can do or what the premise is on this
for
business
sure.
model.
So you probably see a familiar face. This is me. Yeah, so Chiro Jobs, just to kind of summarize this passage here, it's a online marketplace for chiropractic employment. And what that really means is it's the Indeed.com or the ZipRecruiter.com for the chiropractic profession. one of the things that I've gotten to learn from a lot of the groups we work with, the major, chiropractic corporations of the world, they have their own internal recruiting staff, and they spend all day combing through Indeed, combing through LinkedIn, combing through ZipRecruiter. And it's essentially like trying to find a needle in a haystack because there's millions upon millions of candidates on those platforms, and they're not specific to chiropractic. And so it's really difficult to find what you're looking for because it's not built for the profession. And this is a very unique and niche profession that has a lot of ins and outs that most people aren't aware of. Luckily,
Yep.
I've been in this my whole life, so I know the intricacies and the uniqueness of what people are looking for. So, for instance, one of the unique parts about ChiroJobs is you can sort by, different techniques that chiropractors practice because every clinic is unique and different in what they do and how they do it. You can sort by, what candidates are trying to focus on in terms of technique, in terms of location they're at, where they want to be. You can sort by really anything that your practice might need to make it a lot easier to find the right candidate for what you're looking for. So a little
So
bit,
they
yeah,
come
go ahead.
to, sorry, just real fast. So they would come to Chiro Jobs to look for people. So if I'm an associate,
Mhm.
I'm looking to be hired somewhere, I would go make a profile, put my resume up, kind of list all that stuff out there. So that's
Exactly.
one.
Yep.
And
Just
then if
like just like signing up for Facebook or LinkedIn.
okay, yeah.
Yep.
If I'm looking for an associate, I can go on there and kind of browse who's looking. Okay.
Yes.
And then
With one caveat, you would have to post and pay for a job similar to Indeed. So
okay,
if you go on Chiro Jobs, you'll see a big button in the top right that says post a job. It'll walk you through the process. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to put your job out there. And then assuming you move forward and pay for it, you'd be on the platform, you'd be at the top, and ultimately you'd be granted access to our database of associates that are actively looking. And
so then you
yep.
could reach out to those who have posted, but then your job posting, others who are looking could directly apply as well.
Yeah, so really there's both an active and a passive approach from an employer perspective. I recommend the active if you want the biggest bang for your buck. But
Fair enough.
really, if you were to post a job, then we have traffic coming to the website, and somebody that finds your job unique might just click apply, and then they'll apply for that job. Their CV and cover letter will be sent to you to review, and then you can set up an interview if you choose.
Yeah.
Vice versa, you can still have that, but also go through the candidates on the platform to see maybe, John Smith in Iowa where you're practicing didn't see your job yet, but you see him and he's a perfect fit. You can click contact, send an email, call him, whatever, and see if he's interested in your job. That's the more active approach. So
Great.
that's what the platform offers essentially is that efficiency to find what you're looking for.
Exciting.
Yeah.
What a blessing. I think this sounds like an amazing solution to definitely a demand that we hear about as well. So all right,
Absolutely.
dive in. What's the
Yeah.
next? Go ahead.
So there's some really important stats that are current and are benefiting the profession. So chiropractic as a profession is growing, and it's growing at a higher rate than most other healthcare professions. The Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates that roughly between 7 and 9% this profession is going to grow year over year over the next decade. Most other professions like the medical doctors of the world, the acupuncturists, et cetera, are estimated to grow roughly around 3% a year. So
Okay.
that's a dramatic jump just for chiropractic. That
Yeah.
being said, there's not enough associates to make that happen today. There's not enough people going into chiropractic college. The enrollment in a lot of colleges are down, some are up, but it's a net maybe neutral versus, or even at worst, a net negative of the people coming into the profession. So our goal is really threefold. Number one, we want to promote chiropractic to the world. and make sure that people are going into this profession and going to chiropractic college. We need to resupply the candidates in the pool. Number two is we want to make this more efficient for these candidates to get a job. So one of the
Yeah.
things that we are just now accomplishing, we just got contracts with both Life West College and Life University in Marietta, Georgia, to onboard their students to the platform. So we're going to be doing that over the next couple of weeks. And we're planning to do that with every chiropractic college because just simply it makes sense. If
Yeah.
the students are on the platform, they have a better likelihood of getting a job once they graduate. So that's the plan. And then through that, we're going to naturally just create a more healthy economy for chiropractic by having a lot of jobs posted, a lot of candidates, and it's going to become a more competitive marketplace where you're going to have to pay a competitive wage, and then the market wage is what I would call it, to actually attract candidates to your clinic. And, the most successful will thrive. The least successful will, putter along and eventually die out. And so that's how professions grow and get better, is creating more successful clinics and harboring those associates to become successful practitioners, and then hopefully eventually create their own clinics and recreate that cycle long term. So
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at in terms of profession-wide expectations.
I love that. No, I know you mentioned, just growing the industry and kind of giving back to that, mentorship and whatnot.
Mhm.
Perfect Patients, we just recently did a chiropractic industry survey where we pulled over 600 chiropractors across the globe.
Mhm.
So North America, UK, Australia, New Zealand. We had an interesting stat I want to share. We have our part one out. Part two we'll link in this too, so in case you're interested to see that.
Everyone
But
go
we
get it.
more on that business data, and one thing that was overwhelming that we thought was an increased career satisfaction score for those who did have associates over those who did not. So there was an 18-point difference in career satisfaction. 77% said they were satisfied, loved their job, who did have an associate, versus 59% said they were satisfied who didn't have an associate. So I think that can kind of speak to a little bit of share of workload, collaborative
Totally.
environment, mentorship, just the importance of that, having an associate, as far as what we see in the data, that it increases that job satisfaction.
For
So another
sure. Yeah,
to use.
I mean it. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I see it kind of like a professional marriage. I mean, most people that have happy marriages are going to report being happier than single people that are, getting older. It's
Sure.
just obvious statistics. But truly, you're working in your clinic 40 plus hours a week, probably, which is equal, if not more time than you're spending at home. So picking the right candidate is crucial because that is also involved in creating a happy environment. But having somebody there to support your workload, take work off your plate, and add to the overall healthiness of the clinic and successful aspect of the clinic is crucially important in my point of view. And I think you'd be crazy not to want to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, let's dive into your
yeah,
three tips then. Yeah, so
yeah.
three things we want to share for attracting and hiring your perfect chiropractic associate. Let's hear it.
Yes. So number one, the one thing that I hear all the time, and this is part of the issue of the efficiency. So I'll get into that in a second. But a lot of doctors I talk to will say, "Hey, I just interviewed Lauren Lofts and she's incredible. She's so bubbly. She's, the perfect candidate, and I'm
Thank
just going to hire her." And I'd say that's great. And that might be the best option, but interview several others because you don't know what's out there until you have a good idea of the landscape and the candidates that are available. What I was saying before is part of the problem with that is for every, available job, there's, only a handful of candidates. So it's harder to broaden that pool and interview a lot of people than it would be if you were like Google or Facebook that has thousands of candidates applying for one job. So it's a little bit different in that aspect. But despite that, it's still important, in my point of view, to not just settle on the first person you talk to, even if they sound great, because first impressions are exactly that. They're first impressions, and they're almost never indicative of how they'll be long term. So even if you only have one person to interview, do a trial period, have them come into the office, see how they interact, and see how they work through your workflow. That's really important to know that you're bringing somebody in that's going to, be a part of your group, foster your, success in a positive direction versus hindering you. So to me, that's the first thing to remember is don't settle on the first person you talk to, broaden your scope, and make an informed choice on who you're bringing in.
And I see on your slide you mentioned applying and hiring. So this
Yep,
kind of goes both ways, right? So if
exactly.
I interview with one
Yep,
practice that seems really great, you're encouraging I should interview with one or two others just to,
exactly.
so not
Absolutely.
necessarily that I can't go with the first option, but maybe it reinforces that pick
Yep.
or okay.
100%. Yeah. So if I'm an associate, this is more of a selfish thing for me is I, strategically kind of want to pin some groups against each other and maximize my offer. And
Sure.
that's just true with any business is if I have three offers, one at 60,000 a year, one at 70,000 a year, and one at 80,000 a year. I want to interview with all of them because maybe I like the 60,000 one the most. Maybe it's the best fit for me, but I can talk to them and say, listen, I have an offer that's starting at 80,000. Can we work on that? Can we meet somewhere in the middle? Or maybe, this wouldn't be enough for me. Just using that as a clear example, that's what I would probably do as an associate looking for a job is I don't want to settle on the first one either. I want to kind of play
Yeah.
my odds and negotiate as best as I can. So
And
great
as
point.
much as we want to use Chiro Jobs,
Yeah,
if you go with the first option, it doesn't work out, it's a lot more difficult to have to go through that whole process
totally.
again versus, from the get-go, just making sure you're secure in that decision both
Yeah.
ways.
And one additional thing I will mention that I don't really get into in this presentation, but I do in some others that I put out. When you're creating a profile as an associate, which may apply less to your group because most I think will be business owners, but either way, um, what I suggest to associates is to make sure to add as much detail as possible to your profile because really the whole point is you're trying to stand out. And so, like I was mentioning early on, indicate what techniques you're proficient in or what you want to do because that'll set you apart from others and that'll be make you searchable to these employers and where you want to practice, what you want to earn, what type of atmosphere you want to be in. Add as much detail as possible that only helps you and update it. That may change. You might
Yeah.
start as a Gonstead practitioner but learn that you really want to do more upper cervical work. That's fine. Make sure you update that so people know. So I just like to add that as one additional thing that some people don't think about. They just type in their name, email address, and
I'm
say,
looking for it. Yeah.
I'm a chiropractor. Well,
Yeah.
great. So
No, that's
are
great.
thousands of
Yeah.
others.
We really we really highlight that on our
Mhm.
website too. We really hammer that home too of what is your unique selling point?
Right.
Let's try to get away from being all things to all people.
Exactly.
So, technique specific. Sometimes people looking for a chiropractor might not know that much as well, but we're going to highlight it. But like, what's the overall feel of your practice? What's the overall, who do you love seeing? Do you
Right.
love the older community? Do you love the babies? Do you love just like really young, fit, athletic, like it just
Totally.
like, who is it? And let's highlight it because you will naturally attract those people. So
Yeah, one of my favorite sayings is "There's riches in the niches," and I think that rings true to what exactly you're pointing to. So yeah, that's number one.
okay.
Number two, use all available tools at your disposal, and this is fairly obvious, but what I was saying early on is there's been a lot of inefficiencies. The number one thing that most people do is tap into their network. What I hear most often from, independent clinics, the mom and pop shops of the world, is that, hey, I have a patient who's been getting treated since she was 12 years old. She loves it so much, she's going to chiropractic college. And after chiropractic college, she's going to come here and be an associate. And we're going to live happily ever after. That's the idea. And so, your network is a powerful tool and you can gain a lot from that, but it's limited, especially if you're intending to grow a big practice or multiple practices, or if you're in, a large corporate model. The alma mater and the state association are, the same idea. Most schools, most state associations have some portion of their website that is dedicated to the classifieds, whether it's, selling equipment, putting your practice up for sale, posting a job. You can do all of that there. But again, it's independent to that individual school or that individual state association. So it's closed in scope. It's not a centralized hub like Chiro Jobs is, where you can it's a worldwide platform. We have a job available today in Singapore, if you want to move to Asia, which is great. And so that's
wonderful
yeah,
there.
yeah. That's the idea, though, is that the opportunities will be endless for these chiropractors. And so, if you have a job available, it's in your best interest to go on a platform like ours. So hopefully we're the best and eventually the only one that is needed. But that's the idea, is to go on a platform and be able to have more of an efficient process of finding an associate or hiring or getting hired, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, I will argue you're missing a bullet point here, Eric. We would say your website could be a very important part too.
Very important. Let me fix that. Is that better?
Hey, there it is.
Yes, your
We
beautiful,
have a
perfect
lot of
patient
clients.
website.
There we go. Yeah, we have a lot of clients who will come to us, and we've seen some success with it. I think there's twofold. Obviously, um, if your website is outdated, if I'm applying for a job or looking to be an associate, I'm going to check out your website. I'm going to see what you're all about.
Totally.
So having that website accurately represent the practice and your style and the experience they can expect, and do I want to work here?
Yeah.
If it's outdated, what else is outdated? Is my salary
Right.
going to be outdated? Is, things like that. But, keeping that up to date. We also have a lot of clients who will use it. I would say this could probably go with bullet point one. Your network is they'll post jobs on their website. Hey, we have a lot of patients that come on here. Maybe they're someone they know is looking for. I think sometimes that's more specific to maybe CAs or office staff, but even then, you never know. Oh, my brother just graduated from chiropractic school. So we will post jobs for a lot of our clients too. So
Yeah,
there we go.
It's spot on, incredibly smart. And of course, your website is you're marketing yourself via your website to the public and to your candidates. And so I couldn't agree more that it's important to have an amazing website done by perfect patients to be able to stand out amongst the crowd. So that's perfect.
Yeah, love
Number
it.
3
Okay.
is this one I could spend hours on because I get calls all the time about this, and it's more on the legal side of things. It's incredibly crucial, in my opinion, it's not even a decision. It's incredibly crucial to have a rock solid legal contract for your associates when you're hiring them.
When you say contract, like what are some of the things that need to be included or that you should consider? Like if I'm brand new to hiring
Yeah.
associate, what do I need to protect myself from or consider to
Yeah.
make sure I have a line item on it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So honestly, it's practice dependent and every situation is unique and different, but there are some rules of thumb. So for me, in my opinion, if I'm a business owner and I want to bring somebody in, I also don't want them to steal my patients down the road. I don't want them to open up down the road and, have patients funnel over to them. So there's a lot of things like non-compete clauses that should be in a contract that you have with your associate. There's other aspects that you should have relating to, legal situations. We have questions all the time through ChiroSecure that hey, my my associate was accused of X, Y, and Z. Do I have grounds to fire him? And I say, I don't know. What does your contract state? There's scenarios that you need to play out of, hey, if I have an associate doc who is, alleged to commit sexual misconduct, or, just using that as an extreme example, what are my options? So that's one aspect to it. In addition, you want to make sure that they're following the guidelines of the office, and that can be also included in the contract. We support and recommend through ChiroSecure a social media policy in these employment contracts that dictates if you are on social media, you are supposed to have a professional profile and a personal profile. The personal should be private. Professional is public facing. Your professional profile should be solely geared towards your profession. It should be promoting, the office you're in, et cetera. And it
should be
shouldn't. Exactly. And it shouldn't get into, the controversial topics of the day, which unfortunately we also get to deal with all the time. You shouldn't be talking about, religion, race, things like that, or, really politics for that matter, for most situations. And so if you have those types of aspects built into your contract, that makes it a lot easier to set expectations with this person, so right up front what your responsibilities are, what theirs are, and you can have that lead the success down the road versus having open-ended questions of who should be doing what. So
Sure.
one thing we offer through ChiroJobs is a template for our doctors who don't have an ironclad agreement or don't have an employment attorney they've worked with. We
Wow.
have, plenty of employment attorneys we can recommend. We also have a template. So if you or someone is interested, just have them email me. My email is super simple. It's just Eric, ERIC, @chirojobs.com. Super simple. Just email me and say you're looking for it, and I'll be happy to send it over. It's
Wow.
just a small thing we add, and not for today's purpose. That's not the goal for today, but I always like to offer it in case people need it. So that's number 3, and maybe the most important thing legally that you
Yeah.
need to do when hiring.
So my question real fast on this, Eric, is there, if your contract is too strict, is there such a thing? Are you deterring applicants? Are they like, well, I mean, yeah, I'm going to associate with you, but the goal eventually is to open my own practice. So I'm not going to even bother if there's a non-compete, or is that pretty common? What would you
It,
say?
yeah, it's a great question. So what I would say to that is there is no such thing as too strict. These are, normalcies of doing business in any profession. And so the people that push back on that, ironically, are the people you don't want, because if they're going to push back that early in employment, then they're probably a red flag to begin with, and they're going to cause trouble down the road. So that's a good primer, I would say, of if this person's giving me trouble just with this contract, which is normal, and this is true with any job, if they actually would read their contract, uh, maybe I've dodged a bullet and maybe I should move on to the next candidate I find on ChiroJobs. That's the idea. So no, there's nothing too strict, but you obviously want to be competitive. You don't want to have a non-compete that says you cannot open within 500 miles of this clinic. That doesn't
In the
make
state
sense.
of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Montana at all?
So you
Yeah.
have to be realistic, and there are standards to that is part of our template. So it's a good question. There's a median agreement there, if that makes sense.
Sure. Awesome. Well, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So make sure your contract's solid. And if you don't have a contract or an idea of one,
Let me
email
know.
Eric. He'll
Yep.
help you out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
So those are the 3 bullet points. I want to kind of end the presentation with a little more data to help
Well,
people realize, what the actual world looks like in terms of hiring an associate, and dollars and cents that are related. So recently I was asked by a large group that we work with to put together a salary analysis across the country in terms of what chiropractors are getting paid, what the average is, et cetera. It's a very difficult thing to do. And so I had a hard time doing it, but we wound up creating one, and I'll offer it to you all at the end with a QR code. Part of the reason that it's really difficult is because the data is so siloed in different ways. So on one hand, it's easy to find data through groups like Indeed.com, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, but that data is very specific to people posting jobs saying, we're starting your salary at $70,000 as a base. That
Mhm.
is not what you'll actually make long term, hopefully, because most companies, most clinics have some sort of bonus structure, some sort of incentive structure, whether it's, after the first $10,000 of monthly collections, you'll earn 60% of anything above and beyond that. There's aspects like that corporations use to incentivize associates to perform and to bring patients in and, stuff like that. So
Okay.
that select group of data is misleading because it's just showing the base salary. Versus if you go to a group like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that's a self-reported survey and analysis of all chiropractors on what they're earning on their W-2, what their take-home pay is. And that's much different. And then you have surveys like through Chiroeconomics, the publication that surveys thousands of doctors, and you get different numbers there. So there's all of this different data spread across the globe, and it's hard to kind of synthesize that and make sense of it, but we did our best. So
Yeah.
what I'm showing here is the average total compensation across those data points. And the bottom 10% of chiropractors on average are earning roughly, $70,000 a year. The
Okay.
median take home pay is roughly around 145,000 to 150,000 per year. The
Okay.
top 10% of earners are earning roughly around $225,000 per year as a chiropractor. And that's, net income. So prior to taxes being taken out. This one is also, oh, did you have a question on that one?
I did.
Yeah,
If you want to go back, yeah. So
sure.
this is interesting. I mentioned our industry survey earlier that we did as well, and one of the interesting stats I would say you can almost use this as like a fourth bonus tip,
Sure.
right? So basically, what you're saying is you have to have a realistic salary to hire an associate, right?
Yep.
So it has to be, appropriate to cost of living, also competitive. So one thing that we saw I thought was interesting, and again, we'll link that survey industry results, but 28% of the associates that we surveyed said that their current salary or income does not accurately support their cost of living,
That's
um, which is
sounds about
unfortunate.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
almost
mean,
30% are below that.
yeah. It's another
Yeah.
aspect we're looking to tackle. This profession, in my opinion, has chronically underpaid associates for, since inception, since the dawn of chiropractic. And
Mhm.
it's unfortunate, but the with both inflation and just the cost of going to school, kids are coming out of school with on average $250,000 of debt. And that's
Ooh,
an insane number.
yeah.
So in order to actually pay down that debt, you can't earn $45,000 a year at, a clinic
And
in
support
in
a
a
family
rural
and
Nebraska or wherever you are, and
yeah.
support a family and grow and become successful. It's an impossible task. You would spend, 20 plus years just paying down the debt while having pennies left over. So we're really trying to change the perception of what is real and what is competitive. And if you are actually interested in growing a healthy, successful clinic, that you need to be aware of these numbers and offer a competitive rate to students coming out of school and, seasoned associates. There's one aspect of the salary analysis that you'll see if you download it, that there's a kind of a sweet spot of practitioners that through most of your career, your earnings go up. But there is a very important inflection point when you get into your older age, usually, 60 plus, that it takes a dive because chiropractors are also working with your bodies all day long. That will
Yeah.
take a toll. And if you don't create a business, if you don't hire associates and
Sure.
offload that work to associates long term, you're not going to be able to practice at
Yeah.
least full time or at all. And that's part of the reason why your income as an associate will tank and go down to the floor once you reach that older age. So I
Yeah.
found that as an interesting aspect too in our research. But
That
yeah,
is interesting. We
this
see
is
that, I think, a lot of just,
yeah,
"Hey, I'm semi-retiring, I'm going back down to
right.
3 days a week," and so that would make sense. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So
Okay.
one additional thing that we found is there's, a dense population of chiropractors in most of the states you'd probably expect, but the most impactful ones are California, Texas, and Florida. And what that means for you as an employer or an associate is these are the areas where you need to be most competitive with your compensation. You need to hire, a market rate, and that's what market rate means. It's your market that applies to bringing people on. So you're not going to have to pay somebody the same rate as you would in Los Angeles if you were in Arkansas. It's just not the same. You
Sure.
also aren't paying the same amount for a sandwich. That's just the market. So that's the idea. But if you're in these areas, the beauty of it is you're going to have to pay more, but you're going to have a whole lot more to choose from. And you're going to
Sure.
have a lot of successful candidates that are eager to make your business as successful as possible. So if you're in these states, just be aware of that. If you're not, also be aware that you don't have to pay as much, but you still can be more competitive to attract some of those people coming out of school. If you think about the medical world, the hospital systems in rural areas, they have to offer, 8 to 10x what a hospital system in a big city would, just to attract medical doctors to come out there and be able to treat patients, because patients need to be treated everywhere. It's
Yeah.
true with chiropractic, it's true with, medical doctors, it's true with anything. So
Sure.
there is a big value to being in a rural area. You're going to have a big patient load to take care of because you're not going to have a lot of competition. But
Yeah.
also, you got to bring people and attract people to come in. So just another aspect to be aware
So
of.
I think you mentioned you have a way, like, what comes to my mind is how do I know what's competitive? I Google it or whatever. So I think you mentioned you have
Yep.
a salary analysis that they can request. So, hey, if I'm going to hire, how do I know what's competitive? What should I be offering?
Yep.
Right?
There it
Yay.
is.
There it
Take
is.
out your phone, take a photo. It'll pop right up. So download the analysis. This is a good start. It's not the end all because it'll get updated every year, and reach out every year to get an updated one. But this will be a good guide for you to know, what to do, what the world looks like in terms of dollars and cents, and how to guide your hiring practices. So we put this together as a gesture of goodwill to, the Perfect Patients group, and we're happy to
Amazing.
provide it to you. And if you have one-off questions, like I said before, email me. I'll be happy to talk to you if you're in, an area that's not mentioned in this analysis.
Okay.
I can work with you and let you know. But another
Amazing.
resource that you'll find is chirojobs.com. You'll see the jobs that are listed. You'll see what the compensation is that they're offering, and use that as a guide as well. That is the market. So hopefully you'll be able to be successful in doing stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eric. So,
Of course.
okay. So if someone is interested in hiring an associate, interested in, posting their job on Chiro Jobs, real quick, tell us, like, they would go to your website, they go to chirojobs.com,
Yep.
they go through that process. There's a fee to post it.
Yep.
Will you help them with a job, like explaining what the job
Yeah.
is? Do you have, those kind of templates too?
Yes, we do. So they're
Awesome.
exactly right. Go to chirojobs.com. You'll see a lot of the info we've talked about today. It's easy to post a job. It's easy to create your professional profile. It shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes for either. And if you're struggling to, make your job stand out, let me know. Our team is happy to help. We've been doing this for a while, so we know exactly what stands out, how your job should be structured in terms of the listing, and
Okay.
make sure that it's clear for anybody that looks at it. So we can definitely do that for you. Long term, we're going to have some fun tools coming out in the next several months. One of them that I'm excited about is for associates. We're going to have an AI tool that helps them create their professional CVs. No student that I've talked to really has any idea on how to do that. So it'll be easy to just put in some basic data and it'll spit out what looks like a professional CV for you to use on the platform and anywhere else. So we're going to have stuff like that. We're also going to have tools for employers to use as kind of a recruiting tool that kind of combs through not only the candidates on our platform, but anywhere else on the internet that they can just be fed that information. So lots of cool stuff coming out in the next several months, and we're here to help. So reach out if you need anything, and we're, happy to support the profession in any way.
I think you answered this question earlier with the mention of Singapore, but I just wanted to confirm we have a big client base in Australia as well, and New Zealand area. This is a global job board, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
excellent.
In fact, it's funny you say that because next week I'm actually doing a talk with a group in New Zealand who has, thousands of chiropractors across the globe. But yeah, we are worldwide, and that's the intention, is to have opportunities for everyone anywhere.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you so much, Eric. This is amazing. We're excited to have ChiroJobs in the industry. I think this will be a huge value add. Congratulations to you for seeing that need and creating a solution. I think this will be a huge benefit for everyone. We'll link a bunch of stuff for you guys as far as that that salary analysis. We'll include Eric's contact information. And then, of course, if you're thinking, I might need to update my website or might need to have that look a little bit better before I attract a new associate, of course, we're always here to happy to help. So
that's awesome.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you. Really appreciate you guys having me.
Of course.